Hey everyone, so here's my review on the Tokina 19-35. It is possibly the cheapest Nikon full frame lens for your DSLR. The aperture goes from 30.5 to f/22. It is a 77mm filter thread. It does have an autofocus screw. It will autofocus with most Nikons that have a autofocus screwdriver built in their camera. So one of the good things about this 19-35 Tokina is that it's cheap. I bought this one for $50 used at my local camera store. I found it there just because I was searching for like the cheapest wide lens, and I found this. So I got lucky, and it was for sale for $50, and I bought it like right when I found it. Another good thing about this lens is that it autofocuses. I don't think there's another lens, or especially a wide angle lens, that will autofocus, especially on a full frame camera, especially for this cheap. So that's one of the cool things about this lens, is that it's super cheap and it's autofocus as well. So you can definitely use it on your Nikon DSLR that has an autofocus screw, which is really nice, because I think this is the only wide lens from 19-35 that will autofocus. Another cool thing about this lens is that it's light. And it's pretty small too. As you can see, it's on my hand. Let's go with the bads now. One of the bad things about this lens is that it is not sharp wide open. So if you're shooting at like f3.5, it's not going to be sharp. One of the things that I found out, like if I was shooting at like between f5.6 to like f11, and then it'll probably be pretty sharp. But that still just really depends on like your light, the amount of light that you have. But usually on a bright day, perfect. It's a great lens to go with, especially if you're shooting landscape on a good bright day. Another bad thing about this lens too is that the vignetting is pretty bad, especially if you have a CPL filter or some kind of ND filter on, and if you're shooting on a wide open aperture, you definitely see the vignetting. It's pretty bad. You have to go up to like f8 is what I've seen, you know, f8 or and above, to really not see that vignetting. Another bad thing about this lens is the flare. If you're not a fan of lens flare, it's gonna be pretty bad. Well, for example, here, this was just at night. The light was, the lights from the building was coming straight into this lens, and you can see how bad the lens flare is. I mean, if you're a fan of lens flare, go for it. But if you're not, this is gonna be a really annoying lens to use at night, especially if there's light coming into this. The distortion is pretty bad, but that just falls on your style. If you love the distortion of the wide angles, go for it. But if you really want like the wide lens and you don't want a distorted view, probably not the best lens to go with. So overall, what do I think about this lens? First off, it's cheap. It does autofocus with most Nikon DSLR full frame cameras, or actually all of them, I believe, because they all have the screwdriver for the autofocus motor. But yeah, it's cheap. It will autofocus with your full frame cameras, and it's a wide lens. It's probably the cheapest wide lens that I can think of. So I mean, if you have this lens, comment below and let me know what you think. And if you've used it, let me know what you think too, because my copy, it's it's a little jaggedy. It doesn't go all the way to 19. As you can see here, and then you go to 35. It doesn't, that line doesn't point up. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it's just a small quirk. I mean, it is cheap. I bought this for $50. It's a great, it's especially if you're on a budget, it's a great cheap full frame lens for your Nikon DSLR. So if you like this video, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm like up to 100+ subscribers now, so thanks. I really appreciate everyone following me. Thanks.